we go ahead and get started? In any event, I think. Right. We on? Okay. I'll chair until she arrives. Oh. Hi, Sarah.
Sorry.
All right, we're going to call the order of the Finance Committee for Tuesday, June 18th. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good morning. Hope everybody's doing okay in the heat. I went a little cash this morning as a result. Hope that's okay. Why don't we start first order of business, the approval of the Finance Committee minutes from May 21st, 2024. The minutes are in your board books. Hopefully we had a chance to review. I was not here, so I'd rather not make the motion.
Make the motion.
All right.
I'll second.
All right. Motion properly moved and seconded. Any questions, concerns, comments? No? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Then we go into cybersecurity assessment, our favorite topic. Neil. Good morning.
Sorry, I'm late.
Oh gosh, 3 minutes.
So I'll set the stage a little bit.
Okay.
As we discussed last month, we have kind of two audit functions, if you will, that relate to the SORTA finances and the SORTA operation. The first is the state required and federally required external audits that we do. And the second is our internal audit function, like we've talked about, that's led by Norman Bowie. And one of those internal audits that we do to make sure that we keep up our best practices is a cybersecurity assessment. And Clark Schaefer is a firm that we use on occasion when we need specific expertise. And they're here to talk a little bit about the cybersecurity assessment that they conducted here at SORTA.
Yep. So my name is Ross Patz, Director for IT Risk and Cybersecurity at Clark Schaefer Consulting. So jumping right into it, on the next page, page 3, starts to go over the management summary. Details when we actually conducted the assessment of the environment. Probably the most important part to call out is the conclusion down there at the bottom. That, again, posture from exterior, so that of an attacker, somebody that doesn't already have access to the systems or the environment. Called out for significantly bolstering your guys' external security. Internally, we were able to exploit a couple systems in a meaningful way related to the scope of the assessment. But again, overall, pretty good. And then that we provided additional reports to be able to remediate those and calling out different vulnerabilities. The next page goes over the methodology, what we did. Again, basically conducted a vulnerability scan. From the vulnerability scan, then went through and tried to prioritize trying to exploit different vulnerabilities to see what access we could gain. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you. Concerned about meaningful way. What's the timeline for addressing those? And that's probably more a question for staff.
For the most part, they won't.
Don't hide.
Got it already done? I like that.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Pat Giblin. I'd say out of the 6 identified, all five of the 6 have fully been remediated already. They were relatively, although they were significant issues, they were relatively easily fixed on our part. And the other one, we've already got plans, and within the next 30 days, we expect it to be resolved as well.
Excellent.
Pat, how are we staying up on patches and things like that? I know, right?
We have a recurring patch schedule, so we patch every month.
Okay. Or unless Microsoft comes out with something that says.
Well, yeah. So that's their standard patch cycles. All of our hosted solutions are on standard patch cycles. That we agree outages with the business, and then because you got to take those systems down. But yeah, we're on a recurring patch cycle for all of our system. The issue we had with these systems is they were actually systems that were no longer in production but still online.
Got it. Interesting.
I know, yeah, you don't want to say too much in here to get
So that,
people a
that's what
pathway
made
to-
it very
yeah.
easy to take these offline.
Yeah, I get it. I just know it's easy on the patching side to fall behind, and then, you know,
Yeah, no, in that
where we
you know,
were
to
10 years ago, we were behind.
yeah, yeah, and that can happen, and that is the one that isn't just a patch.
Right.
That's going to take just a little bit longer for us to remediate.
Okay. And then the question, was this all sort of a systemic tests penetration, or did you do any kind of, you know, walk into the building, get past security, try to see, you know, passwords on people's desks, things like that, or that was really just more?
So not part of this assessment. I know we've had conversations about doing some physical penetration testing or physical social engineering. Not part of this assessment, though.
Okay. There's probably some value to that, right? I think you have a friendly place here, and so it's easy to let people in, and, you know.
Yeah, we don't have any plans right now for what I'll call a pure social engineering, but we are in the process of developing what's called a phishing program
Yeah.
for both training and
Like email
testing.
stuff, yeah.
Yes.
Scatter USBs
We,
around to
we
see if
actually
anybody
attempted to
picks
do
them
some
up.
phishing testing, but we were unsuccessful because our safeguards that were in place
Oh, blocked them.
prevented the attempted phishing assessment.
Yeah, I guess that's good. Or yeah. All right.
So yeah, we work very diligent, and you know, as Ross said, there are no external vulnerabilities. We keep a very tight front door,
Yeah.
so
Good.
to speak.
And have we heard of any transit systems being attacked lately, or?
Not recently, but there over the past few years, there have been several, including our neighbors straight up 71 were significantly impacted a while back.
And what was it? Just they weren't up to date, or what was the cause? We know.
I believe that was they've been very tight-lipped as far as how it happened, as you might expect.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to teach each other.
Yep.
Usually if any government, quasi-government, it's tech debt built up over time,
Yeah.
right? It's not a patch, it's not addressed, and then somebody clicks on something they shouldn't, and
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's so important to keep up with that stuff. And we were in bad habits, you know, a few years back. So I'm glad to hear that we're no longer. Thank you, Pat, for doing that.
Does staff undergo any kind of training on social engineering, phishing, that kind of thing?
Yes, that's there isn't an existing program for that, but that's one of the programs that we are creating is a phishing, and we'll work with our HR team to put that into our LMS and everything else. We have several programs available through our Microsoft agreement that'll help with that.
And we also send regular notes and updates to staff about, you know, what they could see in their inbox and how to defend against that. As a
We
regular
currently
cadence.
do a monthly broadcast email from our IT security analyst on staff that sends out, as well as any impromptu, if there's, although we don't, really do a whole lot of Apple ourselves, but we let everybody know just general good IT cybersecurity type warnings. There's been a few, hey, hurry up and patch your iPhone if you have an iPhone. We'll send those out to staff, all those kind of things, just to increase good practice and recognize that there's a lot of threats out there, and they get better and better and sneakier, and you just got to be diligent about it all
I'll
the
admit
time.
it. So when I joined Coljet 8 months ago, like 3 days after I got there, I got an email that said, as a new employee, here's some training you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
It was an internal phishing exercise, but it was. I had to do remedial training.
It happens, and they're very good at that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Any other questions?
Did great.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, you're in charge now.
All right, well, good. All right, well, good morning. Next, we'll have Andy Aiello with our financial results as of May 31st.
All right, thank you. We'll start on page 4 with the financial results. This is the 5th month of the fiscal year. Total revenues were at $12.8 million, which were unfavorable to budget by $370,000. We'll dig into that line for sure. Total expenses were $13 million, which was favorable to budget by $421,000. You do the offset of that. Our deficit was planned. We had a planned deficit in May. We actually came in at $200,000 deficit, which was favorable to budget by $51,000. Ridership was off by 5.6% for the month of May. Revenues, total operating revenue was favorable to budget. We continue to be ahead of budget with respect to operating revenue. We'll talk a little bit about that on the next slide. Non-transportation revenue, which is our investment income, continues to report favorable to budget. County sales tax was unfavorable to budget by $644,000, and we have an additional pull-out slide to talk specifically about sales tax at this point in the year. This is 2 months in terms of real sales tax receipts, and federal grants were on budget. On the expense side, wages and fringes were favorable to budget. And then the other three categories, fuel and lubricants, parts and supplies, all other, were very close to budget, netting out at slightly unfavorable for the month. If we turn to page 5, gonna kind of train our eye on 2 lines here. One right in the middle is the county sales tax line. And you see there, as you all know, we are 3 months in arrears when it comes to receiving Hamilton County sales tax information. So we now have 2 months of real data, and we're at $1.8 million unfavorable to budget, right? Actually, I think at this point, slightly ahead of where we were last year in terms of actual, but well behind budget for year to date. When we look down to what that means to the bottom line, you'll see that we are currently at $1.7 million, $1.65 million unfavorable, or $1.6 million deficit for the fiscal year to date, which is favorable to our projection by $2.5 million. So, let me restate that. We're at $884,000 of a surplus when we had projected a $1.6 million deficit, therefore leaving us favorable to budget at this point in the year by $2.5 million. Again, we only have 2 months of sales tax data, which we turn to page 6. We can actually page 7, and we'll go into that just a little bit more.
Can I ask just a couple?
Yes, for sure.
So our ridership is down from budget, but our fare revenue is up.
Correct.
Which is, I guess, continuing to think through what our cost per ride or sales per
Exactly. And if we go back to page 5, you can see a lot of that is being driven. If you look to the top right, middle top right, you'll see $742,000 favorable in terms of operating revenue. A lot of that is being driven by CPS fares. A couple things there. I think we probably budgeted a little bit too little at this point in the calendar year, and we have to span 2 school years with our budget. So we're still trying to kind of work out the rhythm of how we're realizing and the timing
Even there,
of our
you're down
budget.
on ridership versus budget, but way up on revenue, right?
Correct.
So one of the other things in planning is actually doing some digging into this, is that we've added all of the crosstown routes. So one of the things that we know is passengers have to take less buses to get to their final destination.
Right.
So versus having to transfer, a lot more of our passengers have a 1-seat ride. That won't reduce the revenue because they're still buying day passes or monthly passes, but it will reduce the number of rides it takes to get to your final destination. They're doing some digging into that, taking a deep dive.
Yeah. So we know if people are transferring or not. We know that, right?
Yes, so we're gonna have some data, and I don't think they're gonna have it this month, probably next month, of the decrease in ridership where the revenue is staying the same. What portion of
Right,
that
so
is because.
maybe it's not a decrease in ridership, it's a decrease in rides.
Exactly. Exactly. So we're gonna be looking at things like rides per pass on day passes, rides per pass on monthly passes.
Yeah, thanks.
So that will have some of that.
I look forward to that, John, to see the.
Is the CPS contract up for revision? I thought that was about this time.
Yeah, that's a great question. The last CPS contract that we penned with CPS was a 3-year contract. So the terms of the contract are unchanged for 3 years, but we have a PPI escalator clause in there. So the cost of the CPS passes are per the contract, plan to increase by 2% this year, but the general terms are the same.
Okay, thank you.
We're working through that renewal right now with our friends at CPS.
And they are our friends.
Going into maybe sales tax a little bit, if
Yes.
you would like, on slide 7. This is something that we're going to report out on a regular basis. This is the number one revenue line in our budget, right? As we've said over and over again, that we project and we budgeted sales tax in line with the University of Cincinnati Economic Center forecast. You can see in January and February, that top line is our actual receipts from January and February. The second line there is the budgeted, which was about a 5% increase over last year. So you see 10 million and 9.3 million was what was budgeted. And then you see the prior year actual. So 2023 January, Hamilton County, we collected $8.9 million. And then 2024 January, we collected $8.8 million. So not only are we not seeing an increase in sales tax, we're seeing a slight decrease in actual receipts over the prior calendar year. Again, this is just 2 months, and you'll see the bottom right-hand note there, January and February receipts are the 2 lowest months historically for the year when it comes to sales tax. Those 2 months combined make up less than 15% of the total year. So we don't want to overreact yet, but we think that this is going to be a slide we'll continue to provide to the Finance Committee because it's just such an important line item. If we see 3 months, we're probably going to need to react a little bit and talk
That's when
to.
you choose to overreact. That's what there is. When do we choose to overreact? Right.
Collectively.
Yes. So, once we get that March data in, we'll engage, based upon what we learn, we'll engage UC to see if there's some updates of those forecasts that can be provided to us. But essentially, that's kind of where we are. And it's an interesting situation to only have 2 months of revenue data when you're 5 months into your fiscal year. So we'll manage that as we go through.
You had budgeted, it's 5% increase is what you budgeted for.
Correct, based on the UC projection.
Right.
Okay, exactly right.
Right, you followed that, Neil, right? So we budget based on what UC tells us. We're
Right.
not trying to second guess them or be smarter than.
We're experts in transportation, not global economic
Right.
trends.
But
Yeah.
But the economists aren't either, right? That's what's
Yeah.
nice. But
It does seem strange that in this inflationary environment, we would be projecting more spending. Like, that doesn't quite make sense to me. But I'm not an economist.
but every time you spend, right, it's 5% more. So yes, I hear you.
Right,
but
right.
And so they have to evaluate it.
Right.
But it is scary for us. I know we've talked about before was if you're going to be flat for a year, even if it then starts climbing, right, you're 5% behind forever.
Right.
And so what does that do to our long-term projections? I know that's being worked, but that's the scary thing for us.
Well, I will tell you, last year, they came within $200,000. Their projections were within $200,000 of actual. So they were really close last year.
Was there anything that they concluded in Q4 as we were looking into this year at all? Did it?
Not really. And after January, after the numbers came in January, we had a conversation with UC Economics. And they weren't concerned yet, but it was just 1 month. We now have 2 months under our belt. And we told them we would be reaching back out after the third month. And we're going to have them reforecast for us based on what's going on in the country.
Just for curiosity's sake, I'm also wondering if we're seeing any other impacts just countywide. A lot of things hinge on what's happened in the past few years, so it'd be interesting to see if they even offered any other insights to anything else they're seeing.
When we had a conversation with them, it wasn't just Hamilton County sales tax that was down. It was the state of Ohio sales tax that's down.
But certainly the county is seeing the same
They're seeing
percentage
a lot
miss
of
because
these
it comes from the same
misses,
place, right?
Right, it's coming from the same pool.
Okay.
And the long-term impacts, as you said,
Yeah.
Craig,
I
are
mean, it
very
kind of,
concerning.
Yes.
it compounds in a bad way, the wrong way.
Yes.
Right. Any other sales tax questions? If we turn to page 9, we can look at our investment funds reserve summary. 167 million. No significant changes in terms of the obligations that are in the middle of the screen there, leaving us with an unrestricted balance at the projected end of the calendar year of $5.2 million. I'm happy to take any questions before we turn to the detailed investment of funds reports. Okay. We have the investment of funds reports for your consideration for approval.
I will ask one question.
Yes.
So you had the 3.9 million or 398 or something for expected surplus for the rest of the year? I
Yes.
guess you said you're going to miss by $500,000 a month. That sort of offsets that, right? Is that, am I reading that right?
Yeah, so as that number is reflective of
Budget.
actual to date plus budget for the last 7 months. So if the budget for the last 7 months doesn't come to fruition, that 3.9 number will decrease.
Right.
Yep,
But at least it's covered coming in.
yep.
Are we seeing less grant opportunities this year than we did last year?
No, the COVID era of
Right.
grant making
Is
is over. But with respect to all the other grants, we continue on our normal course in terms of bus replacement and all the other opportunities. And actually, we have a couple other opportunities in the hopper that haven't existed before, even outside of USDOT. So I would say that we're on a typical path with respect to grants.
And we continue to be aggressive in looking for grant opportunities.
Okay. So moving to the investment of funds reports, two for your consideration for approval. The first is the SORTA fund. As we mentioned, 167.3 million at an average weighted yield of 4.6%. No significant changes again from last month. And then on the second page is the infrastructure fund, and that's 118.2 million with an average weighted yield of 4.8%. And again, no real surprises or significant changes with respect to the infrastructure fund. Happy to take any questions.
So, okay. All right.
All right, well then with that, without any questions, then we'll move for approval if someone would like to motion.
So move.
Motion, properly seconded? All right, do you all do ayes? Or is it all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is a roll call. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Is there a roll call? Okay.
can tell your
All-
voice,
Okay,
yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And all opposed? Okay, so moved. Approval of investment funds report, it has been approved. All right, any new business? It doesn't look like we have any. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, July 16th, 8:30, of course, in the same room. And with that, we can adjourn at 8:55.
Well done.
There you go.
I've done it
All
quite a
right.
bit.
an ops meeting. We did the pledge earlier, so let's just keep moving right on through. We have the minutes from last month. Any concerns, questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to accept the minutes.
Thank you very much, Chelsea. And I think I heard a second. So properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say left. All right, the minutes are approved. And we move right into the good news.
All right. Thank you, Blake. Good morning, all. Let's start where we always do with the good news, with the good work done by Metro employees. Adrian, please.
Good morning. All right, we're starting off with our April Silver Wheel, Lisa Alec. Lisa has been with us 28 years, a long-term employee. She's the Director of ADA and Accessible Services, and she's been recognized for her as being a champion of teamwork and always willing to help build a culture there at Access, a culture of collaboration and family, and always takes the time to celebrate special occasions for her employees. So congratulations to Lisa. Then we've got Admin Employee of the Month, Donna Rowe. Donna Rowe is also at Access. She's an eligibility specialist who's been with us a couple of years and is being recognized. She recently completed a 2-year mobility management course, and she did it in under a year. So they were really excited about that. And she also recently developed a new system for processing their eligibility applications, and that has allowed them to expedite their process, and they were severely understaffed, so this has helped them considerably with their process in terms of eligibility of applicants for Access services. Next slide. All right, next we have Queensgate Operator of the Month, Crystal Reese. Crystal Reese is a 26-year employee, and during the month of April, she's being recognized for her OTP of 98.2% and 0 customer complaints. She's got a great attitude that's always positive and delivers excellent customer service to her customers. Then we have Queensgate Maintenance Employee, Derek Knott. Derek is a painter and body repair person for us. He works closely with all the departments to ensure all of our signs and decals, all of our brandings, and are updated and posted properly, and is just a great team player for the maintenance team. Next, we have Bond Hill Operator of the Month, John Jones. John has been with us about 28 years, a long-term employee. John is being recognized for his OTP of 90.8% in April. No customer complaints, no absenteeism, no accidents. According to his manager, he is an example of what Metro expects of its employees. So congratulations to John. And then we have Bond Hill Maintenance Employee, Cody Bullock. He's a general repair person. He's being recognized for his high quality of work and his exceptional dependability. He helps to train all of our A-rate apprentices and is always willing to help when needed. So congratulations to Cody. And then next I just want to call out that we have created a separate category for Access drivers. And so our first Access Driver Employee of the Month, Michael Jackson. Michael's been with us just a couple of years, just over a year actually, and he's got OTP of 94%, always willing to pick up late trips if he's needed, and he is both internal and external customers have provided great feedback on Michael and the work he does. So congratulations to the April Silver Wheel winners.
94% OTP in your first year. Let's take some notes.
On his way.
Yeah.
Rookie of the year, maybe, I guess.
I like it.
Let's take a minute to pause about some other.
I'm sorry, John.
Yes.
I just need to make a comment
Yep.
to Miss Adrian. I think that the one member we had that created a new system that created some efficiencies in that department, I think that is absolutely fabulous. I'm wondering how that's being highlighted and held up across departments because she certainly felt empowered and had a degree of autonomy to kind of, create something new that didn't exist. And I just think that's wonderful.
Okay, great, thank you.
So
I'll be sure to circle
Please
back with
give a
Lisa
great
and
big
the access
kudos
team.
to her. And I know Miss Donna.
There you go.
She's a sweetheart. Okay, that's all.
Excellent.
All right. Let's reflect on the heroic work done by operator Michelle Lynn, going above and beyond at about 6 in the morning out in Sycamore Township, so a newer part of town for us. Michelle recognized an elderly woman who seemed out of sorts, out of place, came aboard her bus, and really was able to share nothing other than her first name. Michelle reached out certainly to Metro personnel and then quickly the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office as well. Their efforts also included a Facebook post and use of social media. I know this because being out in Sycamore Township, I get that kind of alert as well. Before that alert comes in, I find out that Michelle and the Metro team are already on it and beating the Sheriff's Department to the punch in terms of trying to troubleshoot this issue and help this woman. Eventually led to her family finding her, and all's well that ends well. We certainly applaud Michelle's swift actions, but if you know Michelle, when you learned which operator this was, it came as absolutely no surprise. This is who she is. This is what she does. I'll share a personal connection with Michelle. Years ago, somebody close to me had a sudden health issue. And I just happened to come across Michelle on a bus, and when she asked, how's it going? That was on my mind, and I shared it. She continues to ask me about this person every single time I see her. This might be going on 10 years. This is the kind of person that Michelle is, and also the kind of people that make up Metro operators. So kudos to Michelle. Job well done. This month, we also announced an enhanced partnership, not only with Hamilton County, but also with the Hamilton County Veterans Service Commission, now offering free and discounted rides to veterans across the county. This county effort pairs with Metro's MVP program, which has been in place for a few years to provide discounted rides on fixed route to area veterans. And as a very important note, this also will include free rides to and from VA medical appointments on all Metro fixed route buses. Very happy to announce this partnership, and it's a good thing we have a fantastic rebranding scheme, because if we didn't, that is one nice looking bus. You see that in person there with the stars and stripes and the team all decked out. Very nice event. Thank you to all the partners involved. Yes, sir.
I'd just like to add the free rides to the doctor's offices in the VA. Our discount program reduces the price to the veterans to $1. Hamilton County commissioners are picking up the other $1. The Hamilton County is picking up the other $1. So they're going to pay the second $1 for trips for veterans to the doctor's offices and to the hospital, to the VA. Great program.
Curious, how are you guys, since it's on like the fixed route buses, how are you tracking that? Like, how do you know?
We are giving ride tickets to the Veterans Association. They're
Oh, I
passing them
see.
out. Yes.
Okay,
And
so
Hamilton
they get
County.
they get the tickets from VA, so they can got it.
Back
that-
from her adventures. Yeah, no, that we're going to take a minute here. Sorry, Brandy. One of the, yes,
so
question.
Is that commonplace? Is to partner with the VA like that and have these rides, or is that something different in transportation?
I'm not aware of a similar program. That's not to say
we
that
like
they
a
aren't
model?
out there, but I'm not aware of one.
Yeah, I've not ever heard of that. Okay.
That's a nice segue to somebody else also without peer. I'm sitting next to one of the top women in her field, the recently recognized change maker, Brandy Jones. Kudos to the PR news team for finally knowing what we've known all along. Very nice of them to get up to speed. As Brandy said, or as Daryl says here about Brandy, she is incredibly deserving of this change maker honor. She's dedicated to not only being a voice that connects and advocates for our community, but her efforts help shift the narrative around the impact of transit in our region. I'm making her uncomfortable, so we'll stop there. Well done, Brandy.
Rock star.
Yes.
Change maker. What's that?
In my 10 to 12 minute commute downtown today, I saw, first there was the WVXU announcement about Metro and using Metro. Then there was a billboard on 71 about taking Metro to the Reds games. And then I saw a new access bus with a new wrap on it, all in 12 minutes. I was like, branding everywhere. It was great.
Excellent.
Even at the pump, you're like, I'm like, why is this thing talking? It's awesome.
Like the Marines, she has all that done before breakfast, so more than everybody else.
Rock star.
Speaking of another star, these are the bittersweet times where we pause to recognize a fantastic career and best wishes on the retirement of operator Steve Burns. Steve retired at the end of May after 23 years of service. You see him at his retirement party, celebrated by members of management, the supervisory team, the dispatch team, the ATU leadership. That's just a small way of seeing the kind of impact an employee like Steve has on his coworkers and on our culture. We congratulate him on an exemplary career and wish him all the best. If he changes his mind, he knows where to find us. Now I'd like to turn it over to Adrian, for a few announcements regarding some partnerships with Habitat for Humanity and some other celebratory DEI events. Adrian.
All right, great. Thank you, John. Good morning again. So as he has mentioned, the Diversity Council, which is part of the DE&I department, is partnering with Habitat for Humanity. We are doing some volunteer efforts to continue to build our partnerships in the community. And so they're going to be organizing 3 different events where we'll be volunteering with Habitat to Humanity to either build a house or renovate a community space, all in support of families in need. So we're real excited about this partnership and our commitment to giving back to the community. So, and then also the DE&I department partnered with the Ohio Diversity Council, who puts on the annual Unity Summit, which is a council that recognizes the LGBTQ plus community. It was held at the Great American Ballpark in June, and it was celebrated. It's the first time it's been back to Cincinnati since 2018. The Ohio Diversity Council brought it back here this summit. So we're real excited about being able to partner with them. And it's really designed to help participation from organizations and encourage dialogue about inclusionary best practices, leadership strategies, and just bringing awareness to the community about the issues related to the LGBTQ plus community in the workplace. And so again, we're real excited to have been able to be a partner in this summit this year. The D&I Council is doing some great things. So thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Brandy has some news to share regarding the 2024 Metro Steer Committee.
Good morning. Before you have a photo of our newest cohort of our Strategic Transit Engagement to Expand Ridership, or STEER Advisory Committee. This is the second year of this group, and they were intentionally selected among the applicants to represent as diverse a population as we could of our community. And their voices are helping us to review our policies, our marketing plans, how we engage with our customers, test out new technologies, all with the goal of improving our customer experience. And this is the second year that we've had this advisory, and it is just growing and getting better every year. And this group is very dynamic. So if you would like to ever tune in to one of our meetings, you're more than welcome to, and I'm happy to give you the schedule. This group meets a couple of times a year, about every quarter or so, and are very dynamic in giving us their feedback and have been instrumental in improving how we serve our customers and improving that experience for them. And this group came on about a couple of weeks ago, so we're really excited for what the year has in store for us with them. There's a couple of people who are missing from the photo, but there are 20 members. This was a photo from the first meeting they had just a few weeks ago.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you, Brandy. Thank you all. That's the news for the month.
Thank you very much for the good news, and let's keep moving into ridership. Do I see Mark came in? Or is that you? Great.
Thank you.
Right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Simon. I'll be guiding us through the May 2024 monthly ridership report. So for the month of May, the total fixed route ridership was 1,155,000. Local service carried approximately 1,126,000 of that. And express service carried approximately 29,000 passengers. Overall, this is unfavorable to budget by 5.7% for all service and 6.1% unfavorable for local. However, express service was 15.4% favorable to budget. Next
And
slide.
this gap under budget continues to be the service we didn't roll out that we had budgeted to have rolled out.
It's a combination of that, and also, as we talked about in the Finance Committee meeting, people need to take less trips to get to their destination. So we believe it's a combination of the two of those.
We'll have more data on that.
Yeah. Because what we report is called unlinked passenger trips. So every tap on a bus versus the full length, a linked trip. If somebody transfers, that's really just one long trip.
Okay.
Next slide, please. This showing the 4-year look back period. As we can see, ridership continues to be well above previous years as we enter the summer months. Right. Average weekday ridership was approximately 43,300 per weekday, which was unfavorable to budget by 6.9%. Average Saturday ridership was 24,250, unfavorable to budget by 2.5%. Whereas Sunday ridership was 19,360 per Sunday, which was favorable to budget by 4.5%. And a note that on Memorial Day, we did run a Saturday service. Local service achieved a productivity of 18.4 passengers per hour, which is above our KPI, and a cost recovery rate of 12.1%, also above the KPI of 10%. Express service achieved a productivity of 8 passengers per trip and a cost recovery of 25.2%. Overall on-time performance dipped in May to approximately 74%. In May, there were 913 missed trips with 98.7% of scheduled service delivered, so a drop from the previous month. And that includes all cases of a missed trip, whether it be mechanical, no operator, or excessive traffic causing a bus to be very delayed. And here you have the missed trips by day. You can see it dips by the end of the month. There. And average number of missed trips by day of week, Sunday and Friday being the usual suspects. On to Access. Access ridership in the month of May was 15,600 total, which was unfavorable to budget by 8%. Weekday ridership was 14,184. Saturday ridership was 673, and Sunday ridership was 744, and that is the total number for all the combined days of the week. And here's that similar 4-year look-back period for Access ridership, which continues rising through 2024. Access OTP stayed flat at about 88.8% in May. Productivity was for access was 2.06 passengers per hour compared to a KPI of 2.2 passengers per hour, and the cost per passenger was $49.32 compared to the KPI of $55 a passenger. Metro Now. So Metro Now ridership continues to climb. We had just shy of 6,400 riders in May on the 2 zones, with an on-time performance pickup rate of 99.5%. Weekday average ridership was 220 passengers per weekday. Saturdays was 191 passengers per weekday, and Sunday's average ridership was 154.4 per Sunday. The back part of the report goes route by route and has some additional information in there. If you have any questions on that, you can certainly answer that. But otherwise, thanks for listening. Mm-hmm.
How do we handle the missed trips with our customers? You know, I mean, if I'm standing there waiting, it's not coming, you have a notification system?
We do, yeah. We have real-time alerts. Customers can sign up for any route or even all routes. So that can be email or text message alerts. Which line is being interrupted, but also informing them to wait for the next coach. With our frequency, there'll be another one coming right away.
But if they don't have that notification on their phone, they're just standing there. Is that correct? The calls I get are definitely for the missed, the missed trips. So I know what our new signage, maybe we'll have something, that's going to help. But that continues to be a concern. And you indicated the rationale, the reasoning. Do we keep a percent of what is the majority of those reasonings? So you have that. I'm curious about that report.
Sure. The majority still continues to be staffing. Roughly 90% of all missed trips are staffing related. You have the occasional, mechanical failure or traffic or late operation, but 9 out of 10 times it's staffing.
It's staffing. And that's a big issue for us. We need to continue, not just leave it to the staff, but we as ambassadors need to help with that process. Because it's a continuation. I mean, the calls I get are, they're not as antagonistic as they used to be.
Yes.
But they're more like, there's something going on that I missed, the bus missed me twice.
So I'm going to recognize Adrienne and her group and John and his group and, of course, Brandy. We've made some significant progress this month, so we're looking forward to the reports for next month. If the rest of this month pans out the way the first half of this month pans out, we've made some significant strides in hiring, retaining. Missed trips are way down this month. So we're excited. It continues to be a focus of ours. This challenge isn't just here. It's with every transit agency across the country, but it continues to be a focus. The amount of energy that we spend on OTP and missed trips continues and will continue until we get to the point where as perfect as we can be.
I appreciate that and understand it. I mean, we understand that.
Yes, but
again, I just implore us as ambassadors to help in that process. Even when I attend other jobs programs, they'll have their own events. I'm still promoting Metro. So
Thank you.
we need to continue to do that as a group because it can't just be staff alone. I mean, they're working hard and got a lot of opportunities out there, but we still have to promote it.
This labor market is a challenge for
It
every
is.
industry that there is. We talk to other industries and we're all kind of going through the same thing, but we made some significant strides this month.
Sorry, I've probably asked this question before, and I'll probably ask it in the future because that's the way my memory works. What is the onboarding time for a person to be independently on their own on the road?
Depending on how they come in, whether they have a CDO, they don't have a CDO, it's about 2 months.
About 2 months. Okay.
and then there's, a longer period of getting them to have high OTP and perform
Right,
well.
for sure.
And so I think, Dale, when you said retention, that is such an important point, because we get new people in, but we want to keep them so that we're celebrating their retirement 30 or 40 years later. And we need to do everything we can to maintain those, retain those great operators. Well, all of our operators. So, they are great.
We're going to help the other ones become great.
I had one question. I thought I saw somewhere in the data that the express route OTP was significantly lower than the rest of the fixed route. Is that right? Or any explanation what's going on there?
Generally, yeah, that's the case. Because express route ridership is heavily dependent on what the traffic is like on the interstates. So with, for example, the closure of the Norwood Lateral in each direction has really changed traffic patterns on the freeways, but not in a way that we would adjust for in the general schedule because it's temporary, but because it is a longer term kind of closure and a bit unpredictable on where the cars divert to, that can cause challenges versus local roads where traffic is much more predictable around certain times of day.
So, the lateral has been down for months and can be down for a few more months with the directions. And without getting into all the details, why wouldn't we make adjustments based on what we're seeing? Because, when we're significantly late on a, express ride, like they're going to stop riding. So just want to push a little bit on that. I do understand the uncertainty. You don't know where the cars are going, and maybe there's nothing that can be done, but are we sure there's nothing?
That uncertainty was probably the biggest factor of when we engaged ODOT in the months leading up to the closures. We asked them, well, what do you see traffic patterns becoming? Where do you see the congestion points? And the short answer was they did not. They would not get into that kind of predictability, which leaves us in a spot where you're building schedules, for 3 months in advance. No guidance from ODOT of, here's your bottlenecks, here's your trouble spots, here's where traffic might be clear. We would have been flying blind into something like that. Even ODOT wouldn't, knowing where traffic is and where they're having the closure, wouldn't give us any kind of predictor of how they would see that play out. So with one-way closures on the lateral lasting only 3 months so far on schedule, we figure we'll ride it out, see how it goes, troubleshoot issues pulling in and out of Bond Hill. What we do see from an OTP standpoint, 4 of our largest local routes out of Bond Hill impacted by about 5% in terms of on-time performance just because of all the other congestion with the lateral being down. We're almost through it. If the eastbound project, did I get that right, stays... Maybe Siri knows. If we ride this out, if it stays on schedule by the time August comes and the lateral opens up again, hopefully back to normal in time for school. Hopefully.
No, they said October.
October.
Yeah, they said October.
We adjust for that, especially with school.
Especially with school.
We've got a 3-month runway, so to speak. Can that happen?
Yes, we can look at that.
I wanted to, I was bumping on OTP in particular. Obviously, the number dipped again, but then looking at the route level, there's really only 3 or 4 routes in the system that hit our KPI. And so I've heard a couple different reasons for why that might be, but are there others that we haven't talked about yet? I mean, new operators and retention is one, obviously Bond Hill being impacted by the lateral, but what are our other?
One of the biggest challenge is we have approximately 530 operators. 185 of them have been here less than 2 years. It is the biggest challenges. This labor market challenge, it's real. And if you figure about a third of your operators are brand new, it creates some challenge.
Yeah.
We've also made significant improvement in OTP this month as well. I'm looking forward to next month's ridership report.
Can we get a sneak peek as to what significant improvement you know?
I'll tell you, we are over 77% so far for the month, so it's up about 3% this month, but we're only halfway through the month.
Right.
And our missed trips, if the month continues the way it is going now, should be around 500 missed trips, significantly lower. Probably the lowest amount of missed trips in years.
All right. Let's hope I didn't jinx it.
We,
You heard me
I
knocking
believe
on
it was a
wood there.
couple months ago, I was mentioning with Adrian that the program that was implemented for I think it was a leadership program where it took, I think, 12 months plus for some of our hires to go through in efforts to increase that retention and make it extraordinarily sustainable. I thought that I asked a question regarding what that could look like in terms of correlation to our KPI. Are we looking at that at all? Because my bet is that it helps to influence on-time rides and that it's going to make that a better system for our operators.
We're looking at everything. We have a retention group here that's working with our operators. The amount of marketing that Brandy and her team has done, the amount of work that our HR department has done to hire, the amount of work that the training department's done, that the operations department has done. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes months. And the progress we've made this year is substantial. We have the highest number of operators maybe in the history of the organization right now. But again, 185 of them have been here less than 2 years. And one of the things we know, the longer an operator is here, their OTP goes up because the newer operators are on different routes, most times different days. So they have to learn those routes. We have made some significant improvement this month, and we hope that improvement continues because it's rolling, meaning we've got 50-some operators in training right now, probably the most operators we've ever had in training at one point. So the challenge to get all of those people through training, and it's important that we get them through training right so that they're safe and reliable. The amount of work that's going on to address this issue, it is probably our main focus.
You can see it coming together. We are watching it in real time, all these different layers, and it's really nice to see the evolution of this. Thank you.
And yes, I hope you didn't jinx it too.
Yeah. I think it's important to note, 50 additional new drivers coming on and the impacts that will have on the performance in the months to come.
Yes.
I have a couple more questions on OTP. One, I thought I saw some data that we were running hot. And are we doing anything to mitigate running hot, which would mean ahead of schedule?
This month, the early is down to around 3%.
3%?
It's dropped a couple of percentages this month. Yes, we are focused on every aspect of hiring. We are focused on every aspect of OTP. And I know you're a data person. I'd love to spend some time with you and share some of this data.
Well, maybe we should bring back that program where we gave out the sunglasses to remind everybody not to run hot. It's been a few years. Those glasses might be waning.
Well, and to that point about the campaigns and the leadership development and attracting talent and the HR and the ops cooperation, I have to point out to Bill Sprawl and his efforts in the team. You talk about the level of detail that they get to. OTP and missed trips by day, OTP impact by route, major event impacts on OTP, things like Flying Pig and Taste of Cincinnati, what Taste does to downtown congestion and that impact on OTP throughout the entire system is quite sizable. But also to shine a spotlight on the early operation, Daryl mentioned we're down about 3% this month. Our target, that's 3% in the summer month. And we all know what happens with traffic in the summer month. That can be an enemy to on-time performance when all of a sudden cars are suddenly on the road like they were. The tendency is to run ahead of schedule. Between operations, cooperation with planning and training, we're actually reducing and cutting early operation in half at a time where it should be going the other way just because of the overnight change in traffic patterns. So Bill's team, their knowledge, their experience, their attention to detail, you're going to see some fruit really soon in terms of all of these efforts.
Thank you very much. I'll hold my other questions because they're getting down into details of curiosity and probably not most important for the board. So any other questions on ridership report, performance data? All right. Thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate it. So we do have a couple of action items. And I think the first one is not procurement related, so we can go right into that. And that's the Everybody Rides Metro appointments and term review. And it looks like we have two familiar faces that are up for reappointment. Is that right?
Correct. We have, as per the bylaws of the Everybody Rides Metro Foundation, the SORTA board appoints all members of the ERM board. Those bylaws also say that 2 members of the ERM board need to be SORTA board members. There are two folks that are here up for appointment, reappointment. In speaking with Craig, we'll send out an email to this group today. If anybody's interested in being one of those 2 appointees, we can work through that this week with the idea that we take action at the board meeting and finalize who those folks were. I think we're open to anybody that has interest. The ERM board needs to stay comprised as a 501c3 board for as long as there's money in the 501c3 bucket that we've discussed in the past. So we'll send out an email today, and if anybody has interest, please let us know and we communicate that back to Craig and Tanya.
Did everyone follow what Andy was indicating about the changes? Okay. So, but we still have an action item here to move forward with Craig and Sonia to next week, and we could make a change if, is that what you're saying?
No, we can take action at the board meeting.
Oh,
this
just
will need
the
action, but it doesn't need action today.
Doesn't need action today. Okay.
Report as to their benchmarks, their objectives.
Yep. We meet quarterly, and we get quarterly financial reports. Brandy manages that process. I don't know, Brandy, if you want to talk about the kind of information that they get in that report.
Yeah, so we meet with the board members who are presented in the next page anyhow, on a quarterly basis to provide an update on the financials, how much was given to the partners for reimbursements. Each month, we are now at the 50% reimbursement rate. We also indicate what the passes are being used for, whether they're for jobs and job trainings, healthcare services, or other social services, as well as the count of new partners. We are very actively and very aggressively recruiting new partners. We want to disperse this money as widely as we can to any eligible nonprofits who can utilize them. And so that's pretty much the information that we provide to the board each quarter, as well as taking any feedback they have received or suggestions on how to improve the outreach or further communicate the value in being a partner.
Is there an audit process? You're handing them vouchers. Is there an audit process to determine, not putting any accusations out, just how are we managing that?
So we ask each partner to sign a memorandum of understanding that they acknowledge that they will abide by the requirements of the program, which is that it is only to be distributed passes to clients who are low income and are being used for one of those 3 destinations, the jobs, healthcare, and social services. And so each partner agency has signed that agreement that they are committing to uphold those standards. And each month when they submit for reimbursement, they fill out a form that indicates how many passes they have given of what type and for which use it was for that client. And so that is our reporting structure, and we keep that information and report that to the board as our accountability.
Andy, you mentioned the board existence as long as there's money in the 501c3 is I don't think we've gotten an update recently on sort of the
Yeah.
potential for a transition internally.
Sure.
Maybe now's a good time to just give a quick update on that.
So the board meetings, again, now that we have post-levy established a normal kind of operation with ERM, the board meetings have been pretty short and sweet, right? We give these financial reports so they can see how everything's working. We get comments from folks if there are any minor adjustments that we need to make to the program. But there's really not a lot of strategic activity going on right now. If you all recall, there was contributions made into the 501c3. Those dollars are being spent down. And in the future, the expenses to provide the ERM passes are going to be an expense of Metro, of our budget, as opposed to taking those budgeted dollars and putting them to the 501c3. They're going to stay within our budget as an expense. The same amount of money would be allocated. The idea is that this is most likely just going to be a program like other programs we have. We have the MVP program for veterans. We have the Fair Deal program for folks that have low income. We have the ERM program for social service agencies to provide pass reimbursement. So most likely that's the way that it is working toward a transition. But because there is still a balance in that 501c3 bucket, we have to maintain the board per, nonprofit rules, right? So that decision will come at the end of this calendar year, and that decision will be made by that board and by this board. What's the pleasure in terms of the structure of ERM?
Can I ask a question? Maybe push a little. So during the period when the levy was being campaigned for, part of the advertisement was we are setting aside a significant amount of money separate from the budget.
Yep.
That cannot be messed with in a completely separate nonprofit bucket that can never be touched in order to serve people in need. I would worry a little bit if for no other reason, not saying that you guys are messing with anything or would, but for the public facing side, right? If it were to be, if it were to come out, right? That, well, why are they taking this money? Are they gonna then just get rid of this program now over time? That kind of thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? That would be a worry of mine, is that we're taking that bucket away and seeming as if we're not being as committed as we are internally.
Any change to the program has to be approved by this board. We cannot arbitrarily change anything to this program. This board has to vote on any change to the program.
And the crux of this is that from a legal perspective, to your point, this board, and this is what happened in the 2024 budget, needs to set up the contribution to ERM as an expense in the Metro budget. It was determined that was cleaner than making a contribution to a 501c3 nonprofit. And I don't know, Kim, if you want to speak to it, but it's actually probably not preferred from a legal perspective for a public entity to make a contribution to a nonprofit. And so based on that legal advice, it needs to be categorized as an expense in our operating budget. And to Daryl's point, this board can require that expense to occur, on an ongoing basis. So it's really more of a legal and accounting perspective as to why that 501c3, may or may not continue. If that provides any kind of background there.
Is there things that we could do as a board to build a firewall in any kind of way that would make it harder for future board members to mess with that contribution?
Some of the conversations this board has had in the past is once we get to the point where, and we're not there yet, that they're spending the whole $500,000 a year, this board actually could authorize us to spend more money than the $500,000.
Okay.
And again, all of those decisions will be made by the body of this board,
right,
to direct what those funds are, how much they are, how they're used.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to continue to build up the impact on the program and share what's going on, who's benefiting from it, and that's one way we can definitely influence it and talk to the rest of the board
Yeah.
and the community about that.
Yeah, and just to be clear, we're thinking like a 25-year lifespan of this thing, right? So I'm trying to think of like what future boards are going to do and what future administrations would do too, not just trying to make any accusations of board members today.
I think it's worth thinking about the history of this too, right? Because it was not Everybody Rides Metro was something that existed pre-levy, right? It was dormant for really the last 5 years leading up to issue 7, and it was really this notion of a transportation empowerment fund that was to be created, right? And that was what I think was endorsed in the board's resolution to go to voters. And I know that was what the Human Services Chamber was promoting. And so I feel confident that what we have is this empowerment fund. And whether we're calling it a contribution to Everybody Rides Metro, which was the previous vehicle, whether we're calling it a program within the organization, and I'm confident that we're all committed to that. But I do think it's okay for there to be an evolution of the programmatic structure of this, as long as we're committed to the outcomes of this. And so I was actually reminding myself of that as we were sitting here having this conversation, because I couldn't remember the term empowerment fund, and sort of how this was structured and proposed seven years ago. But I think that we're still well within the spirit of what the board suggested then and what was being proposed by advocates then.
Yeah.
So.
And from a technical perspective, that contribution to the program, regardless of whatever format the ERM board takes, has to be made on an annual basis by this board in the budgeting process. So I agree with your statement, but in terms of regardless of how the structure works, every year when a budget is approved, this board has to take that action to contribute to the program. How that program is structured it can change, to your point, Pete. But that financing of the program is the responsibility of this board.
Has anyone besides Metro ever made a contribution to ERM? I mean, obviously there were federal dollars very early on, but since its reinstitution.
Yes, but not very much.
Okay.
Very, very, very minimal.
I mean, that might be the reason to keep the C3 in existence beyond this year, is if we think that there's opportunity to leverage our dollars with other sort of philanthropic dollars.
To this point in time, very minimal.
Okay. But we haven't actively sought them either.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Do the agencies, I'm where Blake is in terms of, and Pete talked about evolution. I would like to even, these are representatives of how many agencies and what are the demographics and where are we, how is it being promoted even within those agencies? Are they implying that this is a Metro supported program? Some of the agencies are buying them themselves, and I would like to know, those agencies that are self-participating as well as gaining access to these, to our portion. So there's still some more stuff I would like to know before we, just arbitrarily say, okay, we want to keep doing it.
I appreciate the interest in ERM from this board. I really do. What we'll do next month is we'll do an overview of the passes that we've, the finances we've provided, where the trips are being taken. We'll do an overview next month at the Planning and Ops Committee, if it's a pleasure of the board, of ERM, and you guys will get a real in-depth look at ERM, resurgence of it.
I think as we were trying to build the ERM up in the past few years, we were much closer to that data and getting the presentations on it. And with the success of that work, I think we've kind of taken our eye off of it, and there's clearly an appetite for knowing what's going on and how well we're doing. So I would welcome that presentation.
And I know this board will be pleased at the data that comes out. As a matter of fact, when ERM was restarted, we actually went to 100% reimbursement because those dollars were stacking up and stacking up. We're back down to 50% where we started because the interest in the program has really grown. We're really happy to do an update next month, and I believe you'll be really pleased at the process of ERM.
Can I suggest, and it may not work with schedules, but at least the president and vice president of the ERM board, invite them to that conversation?
Absolutely.
Just to have them, it'd be good to hear their perspective on this.
Absolutely.
Does the same thing. I love Aaron coming.
Yeah. Yep.
Aren't they required to, and they have come in to give presentation at least annually? I'm not sure about the exact requirement, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's great. It's great when they do. So that's a good idea, Pete. All right, we do have another very interesting opportunity here that I think we should definitely give our attention to, which is approval of a lease for the sales office. Andy, are you going to walk us through that?
Yes, I can walk you through the nuts and bolts. Daryl might be able to chime in terms of the strategic opportunity here. We are current tenants in the Mercantile Building. We have a small space, which is our sales office, where we sell bus passes, and we also sell passes on behalf of Tank and some of the other regional transit systems, provide schedule information, so on and so forth. The Mercantile Building is under renovation. That's being transformed into, I believe, residential. We were approached by the developer and 3CDC that there's kind of a generational opportunity here to acquire or to be a tenant in the space that actually is directly adjacent to Government Square. That space is currently occupied by Queen City Wine and Spirits. There's an opportunity with the reconstruction, reconfiguration of that space for us to occupy that space, which is directly adjacent to Government Square. It would allow us two things. One, it would allow us the ability to have essentially a sales window directly onto Government Square. And it would also allow for more room for the CPD detail that we fund in the afternoons to help keep Government Square safe and help our operations stay smooth. Those are two of the biggest opportunities there, not to mention we believe an improved front door and improved sidewalk experience for those folks who are using our system. Again, you can kind of see in the project financing, the proposed lease price is $25 per square foot, which is a significant reduction from our $31.69 per square foot that we're currently paying. But also you'll note that it's a much larger space, right? There's a budget impact here. We believe the budget impact is worth the significant change that we'll experience by being able to directly address our customers and also, as I mentioned before, kind of change the use. The exact details of what we would do with each, of those 6,000 square feet are still to be determined. We mentioned there's a possibility of having some more support for our CPD detail, some other thoughts that are in conversations that are occurring with those partners downtown about how to make the best use. So we're still working with our architect and partners about exactly what that schematic would look like. But this is the opportunity in front of the organization and the board this afternoon.
So there's like about maybe 3 spaces that would be possible for us to be right up against Government Square. Like there's the Corrido and maybe the Graders, right? And then there's this space which is right next to the Corrido. So not a lot of opportunity to take a space like this, right? Okay.
And did you say that they are redesigning that level? Like, so is this the floor plan that is there right now for the store? Or would this also include, isn't our office like kind of up against that same space?
Yes.
Back end of it.
It would end up being one continuous space.
Right,
So
okay, so it would actually be bigger.
Yes.
than the store, okay.
Much bigger. And I'll just add, and Pete knows this, I've been begging for this space for some time now. It will be a big improvement for Government Square, for our customers. This really makes sense. And this opportunity came up, and I think it's important to the organization to really jump on this.
I love the idea of having the window frontage on Government Square. So I think that is great. I have concerns about the 6,000 square feet. That's a lot of space
Yes.
for people who don't work in
Yes.
real estate. Like that is a very big space. And
Yes.
so I feel like that's a little overkill without more information. I would want to know how that space will be programmed. I also know from my experience working in communities that substations for police traditionally go underused. So I would want to know that CPD is really going to use this and how are they going to use it. I'd be curious to know if the city is going to contribute anything to the cost. And let's see, I think the cost of I have concerns about the cost, that yes, the 25 per square feet is competitive, but the overall increase to our budget is significant.
Yes.
And given what we just discussed in the Finance Committee, I just have concerns about, spending extra right now. Let's see, there was one other point I was going to make. I wondered if we could subdivide the space. So does it have to be 6,000 square feet? Could 3CDC or whoever the landlord is, Mercantile Master Tenant, LLC, whoever that is, is there an opportunity for them to rent out like 2,000 square feet to another user and we use 4,000 square feet? So many questions.
Sure.
I have.
We had that conversation with them. They're not willing to split the space up. This is something that happened recently, so we're working through how to use the space, how we would use the space as we grow. It's not a bad thing for us to have some extra space, better there maybe than here. But we're working through all of that, and we will bring all of that back to the board.
Yeah, thank you. I would just like some more information.
Yes.
Thank you.
I just wanted to note an appreciation for you guys and for 3CDC and Model, who really approached this from a problem-solving perspective. That south side of Fifth Street has been a problem for Government Square for a long time.
Yes.
This solves that problem and improves
Yes.
our sort of service experience. So just appreciate the collaborative approach that all three organizations took.
Thank you.
I too am in favor of this. I think that's going to actually elevate that space in
Yes.
terms of how we operate and what we're going to do. I think it's going to create a whole lot more access,
Yes.
which is necessary. Secondly, echoing those lot of square feet. I've got 6,100 square feet in my property, and after a few years, it's like if you're not using it, I've got like 4 offices on my property that it'd be nice to get something else in there. And so I think that's really going to end up being more of a challenge than not as the years go on. Are you able to sublet that at all, or perhaps work with? Do you see any other potential collaborations to share in that space?
We're going to work through all of that. Yes, all of it. Once we lease this space, we've got to do a design. We've got to figure out how much space for the police, what's it called? Substation. We're going to work through all of this. Yes. I've been interested in having that space to change the dynamic of Government Square for a long time. This is an opportunity that we've been able to work through. We'll bring back to the board our intentions for the space, how it's going to be used, how it will benefit Government Square.
Does this document, I just haven't reviewed it and I'm trying to see from a distance, does it lock us into having to use it partially for a substation? Or
No,
would that be, okay.
no, it does not. It does not. And again, I think that is the challenge that we have here, is that this opportunity is time-based, right? That the developer is looking for a partner. They're making some significant reconfigurations of how really the first floor of the Mercantile building works. So some of those questions, Daryl's point, will be answered, but we don't yet have enough information to answer all of those questions now. But the lease does provide us flexibility in terms of who other partners would be in that space, so on and so forth. It does not lock us in to, it locks us into the type of use, right? I mean, we couldn't,
I'm not going to start a coffee shop.
Right.
Yeah, have a disco party.
Your own wine and spirits, perhaps?
Yeah.
Right, but it doesn't lock us. Yes, exactly. As
Bus
long as it
riders
is-
love coffee.
A walk-up window.
Well,
Is not a
and I think
terrible idea.
to multiple points having been made, and then back to Sarah's of the city contributing, as folks would talk about, the improvement that it would make to that block. And
Yes.
so I think that's
Yes.
that's very relevant.
Yes.
Has there been any consideration of moving the Silverton office?
That's a possibility. Yes, it's a conversation we're having, yes, because our customers, they struggle to get to Silverton. Yes, it is a
They could
conversation we're
use
having.
that for something else.
Yes.
Yeah.
As somebody who even lives next door to it, it's inconvenient for me to get to. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
All in
I'm
favor.
excited you brought that up.
sidewalks out there, so.
Yeah, I
no
can
matter
see
how
it
much
changing
you
Government
do it.
Square, to our favor.
Yeah, I think there's
So
a
Opportunity.
huge opportunity
Yeah.
for us to.
I just want to say that, I was working through all the points in my mind that I think have been brought up. And so came down a little early this morning to walk over and look at the space, look at the bus stop, our current office that's further down the hall. And I'm going to admit that was the first thought I had too as I looked at that big space. But at the same point, maybe not quite big enough there. So I think there's some evaluation that has to be done there.
You're gonna put an entire bus inside of it. like
yeah.
there is at Silverton. But you could put models of like the front for folks to try out how to use the bike racks and things like that.
Yeah, rider education, BRT, Metro now coming up. There's a lot of great opportunities there. So your mind races. The one thing I'll say about it, standing at Government Square, as a bus comes in and looking at that space and imagining our sign up there and the people moving into that to connect with them and build up our rider community, or potentially even having our steer committee or others meet there in a very public, open way. There's some exciting elements to this, but I think we continue to have to consider what Sarah brought up, because there is a significant expense to this. Is it the right opportunity?
Thinking like 3 or 4 or 5 steps ahead, right? If we're able to combine spaces, specifically Silverton, what is our lease for that space? I don't know if we own the space. Would we be able to get out of that lease and then maybe help the increase in the cost of this particular, 6,000 square foot, kind of offset that a little bit by consolidation and things like that? But not that I'm expecting any answer right now, but just, several steps ahead, right?
All of those things, yes.
Is there opportunity to support operators with this space too, from a restroom break space? I don't know enough about how our operations, whether we want them stopping at Government Square or if we want them stopping elsewhere.
Right.
Appreciation Day, they were dropping stuff off on the bus drive.
Yeah, there's a relationship between the refresh of Government Square proper that is, currently in the design phase, and this space as well. To your point, we don't want operators during rush hour stopping at Government Square. It's a terrible place to stop. We need to keep things moving. There are issues with 24-hour service and after hours. So there's a lot of discussion going on. Again, when you have a blank slate, putting some of those tent poles down are going to start to decide what's in this space. But that's one of the things that's under discussion for sure.
So our proposal today, or our action would be to approve or disapprove you moving forward.
Move it on
with
to
this
the full
project.
committee next week, or the full board next week.
Yeah.
So I'd advocate that we move it on and continue to have discussions this next week, evaluate it. The cost is high, the opportunity is amazing. So,
But I think we need to move it forward with the understanding that we've gone through a lot of the discussion.
yeah.
And so
Okay.
the value of it.
But just also from a staff perspective, to be clear, a lot of the questions raised today are very, very, very good questions, and a lot of those won't be able to be answered in the next week, right? So just be clear there that, we can provide more information that the board would like to see, but some of these bigger questions will be not able to be answered, given where we are in the development of the project at this point in time.
But the board has our commitment that we're going to come back to you and tell you
Right.
how we're going to use the space, the value it's going to bring to the organization.
Yeah.
And the board does have the opportunity to strongly direct that as well.
I didn't see in here who's responsible for the tenant improvements. Is that on us or is that on the developer?
There's a $300,000 tenant improvement allowance from the developer.
Okay, thank you.
Would anybody like to move this forward?
And just lastly, just to make sure that we drive home the point. So when this is presented though, also, even a degree of visioning is, I think, just still helpful in terms of perhaps use or potential use for how you see that, how you see this space being utilized will be really helpful too. So that's not just, we're going to necessarily come back, but put a few options in there or kind of clear direction, even if it changes course, we understand, but just so that it's understood.
I'll move approval to send to the full board.
Hearing the moved. Second?
Second.
All right, properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say left. Abstentions? All right, we'll move this on, talk about it next week, and probably have a few conversations between now and then. And I do encourage you to go over and look at the space. All right, we have one more item, and this is very different. It's finance software and evolution of that into a cloud-based solution. But there is also some cost here. So, Andy, is that you again?
Yeah, I'll start at a high level. Pat is here to help answer questions as well. We have a financial system, right, that we use for all of our financial work, financial statements, reflecting all of our revenue, and it's a system that the auditors use at the end of the year to get data out of our network. We currently have a vendor called CODA that has been around for a long time. This is actually one of those, as Craig and we were talking about earlier, one of the last systems to be updated. It's currently unsupported and obsolete. So this is, again, I think one of the last major IT systems within Metro that is in need of updating and bringing to current year. This would bring the system to a cloud-based software. Right now, we host that locally, so we have servers and expenses associated with that. And it also, by moving it to a software as a service and to the cloud, will allow us easier integration between a lot of our other systems. We are looking at potentially down the road a wholesale ERP system here at Metro. And so we didn't want to bite off too many years with this agreement. I think our IT folks are looking at, we have procurement systems, we have financial systems, we have budgeting systems, all of which are disparate today. There's probably some opportunity to save some money and create some internal efficiencies by exploring ERP. That's a years-long exploration process. So we're suggesting a 3-year commitment to this upgraded CODA. It'll allow us to take all of the information that we have and seamlessly continue to work with it, and won't require new software just to be potentially replaced here in the next 2 or 3 years. It's about as far as my technical knowledge goes. Pat is here to answer questions. Happy to answer any questions that the committee has.
I'd also like to parrot something that Andy said, is this software currently is outdated and unsupported. You guys will remember a few years ago, we were running the organization on Windows 97.
Yeah. Andy, what, it says staff discovered I'm looking at the notes. What was the impact of that discovery to the reporting that you provided us? You said they duplicate transactions?
Oh, you're talking about here.
No.
Sorry. So you're looking at the matrix with respect to the total spend and the diversity spend and the duplicate transactions. Yes. So when we were reporting out total spend, we're pulling information from disparate systems, and we noticed that when we were providing the summary in prior months, that we had double counted some of those, and so through our review of that, we have now updated that number to be accurate.
I'm still pleased to say that we're going to blow last year's numbers out of the water.
Yeah, I'm trying to, calculate, is that good, or did we go from good to normal, or are we?
It's still very good. Last year, we spent $8.6 million, and through May, our diversity spend is 5.8. So we're going to blow last year's numbers out of the water.
I mean, I'm fine with it. I'm just trying to figure out
And I could come back to you with a detailed accounting of what
Yes,
those changes were in and out. I don't have that with me right now.
And this is gonna be supported, you said it's cloud, okay.
Yes.
Yep. Great.
So I'm over here I don't think this is going to be asked the right way. And maybe there's not, maybe it doesn't even link. Maybe I'm just in my head. So we talked about the, although I wasn't present early enough, I was up till 1 o'clock reading it last night. Thank you, Miss Natalie. And I was reading through the stressors or the tests that were being put in place on our systems, right? For testing for
Our cybersecurity.
Yep. Cybersecurity.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering when we look at this financial software and we've got this data being exported to a cloud, and then we've got a test that happened, I think, pre the implementation of this financial software. So I think I'm going down the right path. Okay, so how do we ensure that it's able or capable to withstand some of those potential cybersecurity attacks with a new system adding that after we've already done that? Am I making sense?
I don't think anything is more dangerous
Okay, right.
running a software system that's not supported, that they don't do updates on. I don't know that there's anything more dangerous than that. And currently, the software that we're running, the version that we're running, is not supported. I don't think anything would be more dangerous than that.
I mean, I'm just saying, will this be able to undergo similar stressor? Okay, that's all.
We have over a dozen different software products that we're running, most of which are now cloud-based. And so that's all part of the cybersecurity examination.
Okay.
Pat, you want to talk
So
about that?
it's ongoing.
To follow up on that question, though, like the 90,000 implementation, we're going up to the most recent version. We're not buying a version that's a few years old or anything like that. We're getting.
Correct. So when you move to software as a
We're
service,
bougie now.
So, yeah, Pat.
to echo all those things and kind of answer your question, certainly we are at a greater risk by running an outdated system that we're on what they call consider extended support, because we're no longer on a current release or just 1 or 2 versions behind. So we're basically in a dead-ended product that they cooperatively support with us, and we make extended efforts. So as they talked about in the audit, there's no external vulnerabilities, but if you got inside, there's an internal vulnerability because aged systems continue to have aged vulnerabilities, and those systems don't get patched and supported anymore. When you move to software as a service, to your point, those the ability to audit those things, we require those providers then to have SOC compliance and some other compliance-related audits that are, industry and other related fields to make sure that our data is secure and protected in those environments. And we follow up with them, and actually we've got a request on another audit for several of our providers to provide those very reports based upon our ridership data and things like that. So yeah, it changes what we need to do to make sure our data is secure, but we absolutely work with those providers to make sure that they're good stewards of our information and of our data.
Obviously, this is important and needs to happen. I'm curious, just from a budgeting perspective, we budgeted 60,000 flat through 27. This is going to be about double the cost. Were we assuming we were going to make this transition, assuming it would cost about the same as what it was before, or were we not prepared to make this transition from a budget perspective? What's the situation with the variance?
I think it's the latter. I don't think that we had a good understanding of how much it was going to cost when we went from this old legacy system to an updated system.
Got it. Thanks.
Yep.
Any additional questions? If not, I'll go ahead and move that we pass this on to the full board. All right, properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say left. Any abstentions? All right, this moves on to the full board. I don't think we addressed consent or agenda. I think we just handle these two items that we have separately because we'll probably want to talk about that office lease in detail, and so it doesn't make sense to have any consent agenda items. And that gets us through all the agenda items. Any new business questions, concerns?
Just question.
Sorry, Pete, I looked at you for new business.
I have an informational question.
Yes.
This says Tuesday, July 18th. I assume we're meeting the 16th? Yes. Okay, just making sure.
And I have a question. I attended a public meeting regarding the growth of MedPace in Madisonville a couple weeks ago, and which is a great thing for the city and a great thing for Madisonville. There is some tension with the community about a 1,600 space parking garage that's being built on the backside of the campus in the neighborhood, and some tension about increased traffic, and Metro came up, and I was wondering if we have a relationship with MedPace and if we are working with them to help incentivize their employees to take the bus. I think this is a perfect opportunity to do that if we're not already.
Busy little corner.
If there's a need help with the connection, we have a board member from MedPace, so I'm happy to,
Yeah, I think it would just be great. They're growing so much, and the more that we can get them on the bus, the better.
You're absolutely
So,
correct.
thank you.
We love those businesses coming in with a lot of employees. Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for bringing up that opportunity. Seeing no other new business, I think we are adjourned. I'll see you all next week.
I don't know how many of us still park. I still park at Fulton Square. Anybody else park there? Under Fulton Square. All right, I still park at Fulton Square. And the last evening, we have security here, is that correct? In the evening? We don't.
We can't.
We can't. We can't, okay. I went over to Fulton Square, there was an incident, an elevator. And, I don't know, I must have had that Rambo look, because they didn't mess with me. It was like, I was frozen. So I'm just wondering, where is everybody parking in the evening, and is there